right, Mike, thank you. It has been a difficult week for Virginia native Ward Burton. He and his wife Tabitha and 14-year-old son Jeb spent much of the week at Virginia Tech on the campus there in Blacksburg. Ward Burton's Conservation Foundation is a close partner with Virginia Tech and the university. He has so many friends that teach there, and obviously it has touched the Burton family, not only Ward Burton but his brother Jeff Burton. But Ward and his family spent quite a bit of time there in Blacksburg this week, and still very, very touched and very saddened by the events of a week ago. So a tough beginning here for Ward Burton in the early laps at Talladega. Let's check in with Alan.
Well, Doc, Ward's brother Jeff is among the interested observers down here as repairs go on to this 29 car. Scott Wimmer behind the wheel today. Scott, I talked with you before the race. You had really high hopes. What happened in front of you?
I'm not 100% sure. It looked like 27 car maybe got turned around. And, you know, we run into each other the whole race long, and it's just hard to keep them under control. But I don't know. This car was really good. These guys are going to work hard. We're just going to end up points racing now. But proud of the guys. We'll get him back. You know, Jeff's a big cheerleader for this team, so he's down here helping out and trying to go after that owner's championship. So hopefully we don't get hurt too bad.
Thanks, Scott. Sorry for your bad luck today. Let's go out to pit road, Dave.
Alan, wanted to update on Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's always a story here at Talladega, but when he starts 25th and goes to fifth in 2 laps, we know he's got another good race car. He was involved in that, had a right front tire cut down. They came down pit road, changed 4 tires, and then Jr. reported a bad vibration. They brought it back down pit road again. As they took the tires off and changed that set, they checked to see if there was any suspension damage or brake rotor broken, perhaps. Nothing that they can see so far. So for now, Jr. stays on the track, hoping they correct that problem. Also, Dave Blaney on and off pit road, damage to the front of his car this time, and it's a lot worse than it was at Daytona in the rear.
And certainly when you damage, thank you very much, guys, when you damage the front of a car at a racetrack like Talladega or Daytona, it can be serious in terms of trying to be able to get the car back up to speed. As we retake the green flag here at Talladega, and the youngster again, Coleman, leads him down with a challenge from David Reagan behind him.
You know, you heard the disappointment in like Scott Wimmer and Jason Leffler's voice as they were being interviewed after these accidents. You know, they come here knowing that this is a really good chance that they have, because everybody has a chance to do well here, and you get down to those last laps, you have a chance to win, and that's been taken away from them early.
Yeah, we see that 18 car got a great restart, and I tell you, sometimes that can really work against you at Talladega. He got about 10 or 12 car lengths out on these guys. They used that momentum, and they lined up on the outside and just motored right by.
All right, David Reagan takes the lead. He becomes the second leader of the day, the 21-year-old driver, driving for Roush Fenway. But take a look at the high side. Here comes the 42. That is Juan Pablo Montoya, and he will sail by, entering turn 1 and take the lead.
We look down on the bottom, we see Kyle Krisiloff in the 14. This is about as far up as he's been all year in a Busch race, so he's very confident. This is the kind of racetrack, though, that you can do that. These guys that you come into this restrictor plate race, I'll tell you, it can be anybody's race. Anybody can win here.
Yeah, you really can, and this racetrack has so much grip that it just gives everybody confidence. Handling doesn't come into play hardly at all with these race cars, and especially this early on. So guys just hold it to the floor and go as far up to the front as they possibly can, and we see Juan Pablo Montoya in the lead right now.
It looked like everybody just kind of hung the 6 and the 14 down on the bottom. Everybody lined up on the top, and it kind of sent them back in the pack a little bit.
Juan Pablo Montoya, the same car he had at Daytona when he started at the middle of the pack and was running into the top 6 when they lost and broke a valve and had to call it a day. They knew this car would draft well. The question was, would he have the experience on this big track to be able to utilize the speed and the draft?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Does he have the experience? I mean, obviously, this is a totally different ball game than what he saw at Daytona. He's going to have to do a lot of blocking here to keep the lead, and how experienced is he going to be to do that? But he has so much talent and a good race car, and that's 2 things that help a lot.
DJ, he ran the ARCA race here last fall. In fact, he ran in the top 3 all day. Steve Wallace led most of that race. Montoya ran second and ended up finishing third. How much does that translate to what's happening now here in the Busch car?
Well, it helps a lot. Any experience that you can get being out there with other cars and other drivers, just learning what the draft is really about, and that is learning how does it help you. You know, where can you make the most of it? You know, it's not just about being right behind another car or pushing another car, as we see Casey Mears going for the lead on the outside here. It's also about learning how close you can get, how much of a bump that you can give someone, and exactly which lane is going to be the fastest before the end of the day.
It looks like Casey Mears is looking for some drafting partners here. And he gets hung in the middle. We see the 22 of Mike Bliss go on the outside of him. Well, it doesn't take long. He was just fighting for the lead about 2 corners ago.
Yeah, you got those 2 Dodges up there in the front. Casey Kane really giving Juan Pablo a nice push there and kind of pushed Casey Mears back to about 5th or 6th.
And with more on Casey Kane, let's check in the Evernham pits with Jamie.
Well, guys, we haven't seen a whole lot of great things to talk about from Casey Kane. It's been a tough year, but he told me right before he got in the race car, Talladega is all about your drafting partners. He said in practice on Thursday, he hooked up with Greg Biffle, who's right behind him in that 16 car, shot him from 17th to the front. Well, just now, guys, he went from 10th to 2nd in about 8 laps. He said he is desperately waiting for a good finish, and this is the same car from Daytona. He said he knows it has the speed. It's all about your dancing partners. Doc?
Exactly the same car. They never got a chance at Daytona, involved in an accident not of his own doing in the first 15 laps. They repaired the front of this car. He knew we would be awfully good here. And how about Carl Edwards? He took that outside line with Casey Mears with him, and they go to 1st and 2nd here on the field.
It looks like we see something developing here with that outside groove being the quick line right now. I don't know if it's just coincidental. The good cars are up there, but it seems like every time that the guys get up front, they form a line on the outside and motor right by. And here we go. The outside lane's working again for Tony Stewart.
But just like the other racetracks that we talked to, momentum is something that you really want. And here, if the higher you are, the less wheel you have to put in that car, so you're slowing it down less. As a crew chief, Andy, you're always telling us, turn that steering wheel the least amount you can, and you'll go faster. And that's exactly what Tony Stewart's doing. They obviously have that problem fixed, and he's on the move right to the front here.
Dave Burns, Tony Stewart making a move now.
And that was really the plan at the start of the race, Doc, until the car popped out of gear. They qualified 37th. Crew Chief Dan Stillman told me that's about what we expected. So Tony planned to race right to the front. When the car popped out of gear, he had to fall back. And when that caution came out for Jason Leffler early on, he said, oh, well, that'll work, because he knew he could get back with this pack. And as long as that thing stays in gear, Tony will have a very good race day.
Yeah, Dave, but one thing I'd be worried about is they run really soft valve springs here, so these engines don't like to turn a lot of RPMs, and that thing pops out of gear. It could cause a little damage that may come back later.
I guess that's a caution that Tony didn't mind seeing too, wasn't it?
Yeah, he didn't. He wasn't questioning that caution flag.
And back to Dave in the Tony Stewart pits.
And Andy, just so you had those numbers one more time, Tony did report that he saw the tachometer rev up to 7,900. That was 400 over the 7,500 he was normally running at. So what do you think on those soft valve springs?
Well, these cars don't like to turn the big RPMs like you see on these other tracks. 7,900 you would think would be safe at a lot of tracks, but here on these restrictor plate racetracks, they try to take advantage of every little thing. So, it could be a little issue for them later if they're not careful.
All right, a couple of the Hendrick cars up front as Casey Mears and Kyle Busch now take the lead. Back with more from Talladega after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.